Maybe America's crazy punitive drug laws are finally coming under attack and subject to potentially some very positive reforms, judging by the action at the polling booths across the country on marijuana. We'll talk about that with Carl Olson in a minute, and we'll also talk later in the show about the genetically modified labeling ballot initiative that failed in California.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome to the People's Park across from the state capitol. Actually, no, you're brighter than that, folks. You know that's a picture, a photograph behind me. Yeah, the scaffolding long gone, the flag not necessarily frozen in that position, and yeah, my head not quite as big as the dome. I want to thank Physicians for Social Responsibility for sponsoring this program, and also the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club and Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. And I want to welcome Carl Olson to the program. Carl is a leading expert on medical marijuana, on marijuana laws in general, and that's a fair assessment, folks. This guy's been working on this issue like a pit bull for 30 years or so, and I think you're probably happy to be seeing some progress made, Carl.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I didn't really think I'd see this kind of stuff in my lifetime when I first started looking at this issue. Well,
I mean, and right, this last election was possibly the most significant collection of momentum toward more intelligent policies relevant to marijuana. We have, 3 states that enacted law changes that are significant and 2 that came close. Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, to summarize, Colorado and Washington State, both legalizing marijuana, not just for medicinal purposes, but for recreational use with a bunch of stipulations. And then Massachusetts, you know, allegedly the more progressive of those 3 states, legalizing it for medicinal use.
Right.
And how many states now allow marijuana use for medicinal purposes?
That makes 18 in D.C. And another thing is this Massachusetts law passed by like 67% to 33 or something like that. It was a really large margin it won by.
How close was it in Colorado and Washington?
It was about 55-45 there.
In both states?
Yeah.
That's significant.
Yeah. And then the one state it lost in Oregon, it was 55-45 the other way. And Arkansas failed to pass medical like 49 to 51%. So
in Arkansas, it was strictly medical. And it was that close.
Yeah.
In a southern state.
Yeah.
All right. Good. And in Oregon, though, that was for recreational use as well, similar to Washington?
Yeah, and it was kind of broader than Washington and Colorado, but it was less well financed. The the Colorado and Washington things were so well financed that for the Oregon thing to do that well with no funding was amazing.
Okay, so why was that? Why were the initiatives in Washington and Colorado more heavily financed?
Because they were more restrictive, and they felt there was more potential that they would get enacted. I mean, the people who didn't want to fund the thing in Oregon never would have dreamed that it would have done that well in Oregon. They might have supported it if they'd realized that it would do that well.
Yeah. Now, as a lawmaker, I would every 2 years, pretty much religiously, I would offer a bill legalizing marijuana for medicinal purposes, and it would not even make it out of committee.
Right.
And and you're a Democrat. In fact, you're very active with the Democratic Party.
Sure.
And even under Democratic control for 4 years, I don't believe there was too much progress. I think there was some progress.
The most progress we saw was 2 years ago in 2011. Senator Bolcom and Hatch were the subcommittee with, I can't remember who else was on the subcommittee, Bartz, maybe?
Who recently got beat.
Yeah. And Bartz has been a longtime supporter of medical marijuana, one of the only Republicans.
Yeah.
But anyway, they actually held a hearing on it in the subcommittee and voted it out of subcommittee and sent it to the full committee, which is the first time that's the most activity we've ever had.
And was it not taken up by the full committee?
It was not taken up by the full committee, and I'm not sure why. I would just imagine they don't think it can make it through the House, and so they're not going to spend the time on it or something. I don't know.
There's that argument, and then there's also the argument that, hey, we need to create some momentum. We need to at least challenge the House to look at this legislation.
Yeah.
And you see that all the time on different bills. It depends really how important it is to the leadership in that particular chamber.
Yeah. So. Well, earlier this year, the last session of the legislature, Bruce Hunter actually introduced Bolcom's bill in the Iowa House. So we actually have a Democrat trying to stir this up in the House.
And was that straight up medicinal marijuana, or were there some
it
other
was
provisions?
Straight up medicinal marijuana. Yeah, it was to set up a program like the other states have.
Now, what do you say to people who argue, well, the medicinal marijuana thing is just a front for legalizing pot across the board?
Well, I think it has to do with how marijuana is used. It's used raw in a plant form. It's very medicinal just eating it raw without the psychoactive effect whatsoever. Medicalization creates a lot of restrictions on it, and so I think people are upset because the people, it's hard to get access to it, and so that's why you see states like Colorado and Washington that already had medical marijuana go for full legalization, because the medical marijuana thing really hasn't been the ideal solution for the number of people that need it. So,
okay, so perhaps what you're saying, if I can read between the lines, is the critics who say that, well, medicinal marijuana is the kind of the
an excuse.
The excuse to get to full recreational legalization.
Right. So Washington and Colorado responded that by saying, okay, we'll accept that, so we're just going to legalize it.
And it worked.
Yeah, and it worked. Yeah.
So maybe the criticism is accurate, but that doesn't trouble you.
Well, it doesn't trouble me because marijuana is not as dangerous as prescription drugs, and so you want a lot of restrictions on oxycodone and Adderall and stuff like this, and barbiturates and stuff like that. You want that stuff to be fairly hard to get. Marijuana, on the other hand, hasn't had any significant health impact on the people that have been allowed to use it, and so the concern there with it getting outside of the restrictions is not as a big concern. Right. So I just think that, I don't know, I think society's been ready to legalize marijuana for a long time, but the politicians haven't.
The politicians tend to be behind the public on a lot of issues, right. Maybe most issues. Folks, this is Carl Olson with me, this segment of the program here on the Fallon Forum. You are welcome to join the conversation at 244-0077. Toll free, it's 855-244-0077. We're talking medicinal marijuana, we're talking recreational marijuana, and we are talking about the progress on decriminalization of the substance in elections across the country this past week. So again, it seems like the ball is rolling. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I'm only making this comparison because these are two.
This is a little baby that's just been born, and its legs are a little bit shaky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think back to the time when I mean, you've been active on this for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, you got yourself in some trouble on this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first reaction to the marijuana laws was use it as frequently as possible and distribute it as widely as possible.
Is this back in the 60s?
It was
70s?
about the end of the 60s, the early 70s, yeah. And through the early 80s until I went to prison.
I know if people go to your Facebook page, they see a picture of you.
On the steps of the courthouse.
Which courthouse is that?
That was Portland, Maine, the federal courthouse in Portland, Maine.
Yeah, and you're preparing to go in for trial?
Mm-hmm. And smoking marijuana on the steps of the courthouse.
Because at that point, what do you have to lose, right?
Right, yeah, and the judge was entertained by it, but he also felt that he called me into court one morning and said, if you don't stop doing that, I'm going to sequester the jury. In other words, I'm going to lock them up, and they won't like that, and they'll take it out on you.
Oh, because your trial took a week or more?
I can't remember.
And so every day you'd be out on the way into the courthouse.
It was several days.
So on the way into the courthouse, you would stop on the steps of the federal court in Portland, Maine.
Yeah, and because the media were out there, the reporters were out there, you know, and so we wanted to get our picture taken smoking pot on the steps of the courthouse.
Wasn't there a risk that would aggravate your sentence?
We just felt like that it was just a kangaroo court, and there wasn't anything. We didn't think there was any possibility that we could generate any more hatred toward ourselves than what we were experiencing.
And what were you being busted? What were you being tried for?
I was unloading a boat with 20 tons on it.
Wow!
And obviously, a lot of people involved, so I played a role.
So you've got sailing experience as well.
No, I was just one of the people offloading the boat. So I have rubber dinghy
experience. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's pretty major.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how much time did they slap on you for that?
Well, I only ended up doing 2 years. They slapped 5 on me. I was facing 15. I was facing 2 counts with 15 years each. Got convicted on 1 and acquitted on the other, and the judge only gave me 5 years instead of the 15 for whatever reason. And then he even granted me time for spent in state custody, which knocked more time off. And the warden messed up the calculation on my sentence. I ended up doing 2 years on it out of the possible 30.
Yeah, and you've remained passionate about this issue, and you've become, I mean, again, one of the country's leading experts on the details of the law. And
yeah, you have to look at this law from where it started, and I mean, you can go back a long way, but basically the start of it was about 1960, and the United States decided to rewrite the international treaties, and they wrote something called the Single Convention, which in 61 that the U.S. adopted in 67. And, you know, a lot of people say Nixon started all of this, but no. The law was being prepared. The federal drug law that was written in 1970 was a response to this international treaty. Nixon didn't even get elected until the end of 1969. This was well in the works before he got elected.
So who was pushing for that change specifically?
Well, you know, they combined cocaine and opium and marijuana all into one treaty. This is the first time that marijuana had ever been included. Previously, it was just coca plants and opium poppies. Mm-hmm. And during this process, they decided to add marijuana in. I would say it probably had a lot to do with Mexico. Mm-hmm. The Spanish tried to bring marijuana into Mexico as an industrial crop, and people started discovering that it really grew well in that tropical climate and started producing psychoactive varieties of it. And the Catholic Church didn't like it because they felt that people were having religious experiences that weren't Catholic. And so they started a propaganda campaign against it, which the Spanish were bewildered because they thought this was an industrial crop.
The Catholic Church has a long tradition there's a mystical element of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So you know,
right.
Maybe that was just
they felt some competition
enhanced.
There. Yeah. So that's where it really came from. And if you look to the early laws in the United States and look at the testimony that was given in the state legislatures back in the early 1900s, they talked about Mexicans and blacks being jacked up on this stuff. And so it got included as a drug. And that's how it wound its way up into the drug law.
It's fascinating to me that, and I know we did have a period in this country when alcohol was subject to prohibition. Mm-hmm. That didn't last too long. and we've never even thought of going back there. Tobacco has always been legal, although very, very tightly regulated these days, including not just the taxation on it, but the limitations on advertising, on who you can market it to. It just seems like we've dealt with all three major drugs. Although those are maybe it's not exactly fair, but three of the most prominent drugs in our society: tobacco, or let's call it nicotine, alcohol, and marijuana. And we deal with them all extremely different. For some reason, marijuana has been the ugly stepchild of that trio, and we have spent incredible amounts of money, destroying. How much time and money is spent looking for marijuana crops being grown, destroying them, and then how much time was spent just putting you through trial and 2 years of prison. And I know people who've spent 25 years, gotten 25-year sentences. Because of a marijuana offense.
I can't see how society can survive when they make criminals out of that many people and take that many people out of production and call them and put them on welfare, basically. You give them a criminal sentence and a criminal record and make them unemployable, and it's like they're bad. And
yeah, it is hard. This weekend I met with four men who had done time in Iowa's prison system, and they're all doing extremely well. One of them was in for, I think, 35 years. Two of them own their own businesses. They're just they're very, very. They've done very well. They've adjusted very well.
Yeah.
But
okay,
it is tough though. But it is tough.
Yeah,
a lot of people get stigmatized.
I do well, but I definitely got set back. I had to. I lost 20 years there that were just not.
Really that much?
Well, before I got into the regular job thing, like now I'm regularly employed and everything. When I got out of prison, I was broke, and I had to, I was about 40 years old, and that was like I was starting where I should have been when I was 20. So that whole period of time. But I learned, I'm glad that I went through that, because marijuana, I like marijuana, and I used enough of it to be qualified to say that. And so I've considered it all worth it, because I was brainwashed when I was a kid into thinking this was bad, and now that I realize how all the things that it can be used for, I'm glad that I found it was able to break through that and just say no.
Well, and it's 25 years ago or so, I had my first activity relevant to trying to achieve equality for the gay and lesbian community. And I never thought we'd get to the point where we are now, where marriage equality is just breaking out all across the country. And you probably feel the same way about this issue.
Oh, yeah.
You never thought you'd see the day where you've got, 5 states have it on the ballot, and 3 of them passed, 2 of them are close. And and now again, you're hearing here in Iowa, there's talk about seeing it surface again in the coming session.
Yeah, there's talk all over the world right now. This has got people. People have been unhappy with this thing, but they know that the United States drives it. And so when the United States starts making significant changes, that generates a conversation all over the planet.
What do you say to folks who say, well, marijuana, despite the cost of criminalizing marijuana, despite all the number of lives that are somewhat wasted in prison, say, still, the drug is dangerous. It's not something people should use. It's harmful, and we don't want to encourage its consumption. What do you say to folks who have that perspective?
It's just not as dangerous as the stuff that we legalize, like tobacco and alcohol. It's not as dangerous as the stuff that we limit to prescription. There's no justification to fear something that's as safe as marijuana.
So is it dangerous? Is it not as dangerous?
It can be disorienting. It has a psychoactive effect. If you're not prepared to experience that, it might be extremely disorienting. When you get used to it, I think that it can be used much safe. It's safer than alcohol, and certainly we don't consider that just alcohol per se is dangerous. We know some people are extremely dangerous when they use alcohol, and other people seem to be not dangerous.
And some studies suggest that a glass or 2 of red wine per day are helpful and good for your health.
Yeah, there's nothing about marijuana that makes it dangerous just because it's psychoactive, any more than alcohol is dangerous because it's psychoactive.
Yeah. And I suppose there are medical studies out there that people could look at to see.
Yeah,
right.
There's a lot.
And for the record, here's my sordid history of drug use, folks. The only drug I've ever tried is marijuana. 3 times back in my college years. Never having grasped the function of inhaling properly. All I did was cough my head off 3 times. Never even got buzzed. So 3 attempts, all wasted. I gave it up. Never been back.
Yeah.
I just think it's silly to be putting people in prison.
Yeah,
like
my
this.
first 3 times, my dad says this same thing. My dad says the same thing as you, but I tried it a few times and didn't get high on it and thought it was garbage too. But people kept telling me, no, you just didn't get the right time. You didn't do it the right setting, or you didn't get the right stuff, or this or that. And I kept trying it, and finally I did get the right stuff or the right setting or whatever. And then I was just like, this is the greatest thing that God ever made, And I'm still that way 45 years later. This is my favorite thing that God created,
Well, yeah, I can't say it's on my list of the top 100, but
yeah, no, this is at the top for me.
So what happens? Just got a couple minutes left here. What happens over the next few years at the State House here in Iowa? We won't see a ballot initiative. We don't do that here in Iowa.
Well,
it'll have to be through the legislature.
I think that whatever we see in Iowa has to do with what goes on around us in other states. Like, there's more chance that something will happen now in Iowa because of Colorado and Washington. One of the things the states have totally not figured out is how to deal with the federal government on this issue. And the federal drug law says marijuana has no accepted medical use in the United States, or it's a condition of the classification. It's not a statute, it's just a regulation. And the condition for anything remaining in Schedule I is that it have no accepted medical use and treatment in the United States.
And this does.
Well, here we got 18 states that have accepted it, and not one of them has challenged that classification. Now, as soon as they wake up and realize that classification depends on them challenging it, because the DEA is not just going to voluntarily say, oh, it looks like states are accepting it. The states have to come forward. They change their mind. It's them that's making the change. They have to come forward. And when they start waking up to that, then you're going to see like states like Iowa that are saying, oh, this is still a federal crime and stuff like that, when they realize the federal thing is not an impediment and it really doesn't stand in the way like they think it does.
Well, with the
you could see great momentum very quickly here in Iowa.
But with the embarrassing slowness with which the Iowa State Legislature tends to move on anything, it almost seems like it might involve a court challenge, a legal proceedings before we have.
Well, yeah, I've got a case in the Iowa Supreme Court right now. If I was going to condition the classification on marijuana that it have no accepted medical use and treatment in the United States, and now it has accepted medical use in 18, I have that case pending in the Iowa Supreme Court right now. And I also have, well, that's the biggest thing I got going on right now. Yeah, I have that case in the court. And the only question is, will they decide the merits of that, or will they find some technical reason to say my case wasn't filed correctly or something? Who knows? Yeah.
Well, Carl, best of luck. I mean, as a non-user, I still thank you, because I'm a big believer in less government and personal responsibility. Oh, wait, those are Republican values. Where's the Republican Party on this issue? Anyway,
yeah, they're hypocrites.
They're hypocrites on this.
Yeah, it's the biggest.
And also saving money. I mean, I don't know if you or anyone has figured out how much money we would save by decriminalizing marijuana, but it's got to be huge.
Yeah.
It's got to be incredible amounts of money.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, and it's interesting. Half of the enforcement budget here comes from a federal grant called the Byrne Grant, and so, if they legalize marijuana and they take like 80% of the drug law prosecutions and arrests and everything out of the thing, like, then they're going to go to the federal government and say, we still want the same amount of money, even though we've only got 5% of the...
So maybe the drug war in some ways has become a jobs program, just like the defense budget has become a jobs program.
Yep.
Yeah. Carl, thanks for joining us. I do want to ask, we've never had this conversation before. I don't know for sure whether you've ever experimented with marijuana, but I thought we'd ask with the expert, Carl.
I have not. Because,
okay.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but since it's illegal, I haven't.
Good response.
Yeah.
Thanks, I'm smart.
I haven't used it for 22 years.
Okay, so if it is legalized, maybe I'll let Carl take you for a ride bike.
Well, I might. Yeah, sure.
All right. Thanks again for joining us, folks. We'll be back in a little bit here. If you want to reach Carl Olson, you've got a website, Carl?
I do. It's kind of long. IowaMedicalMarijuana.org.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
IowaMedicalMarijuana.org.
Yep.
ORG. Thank you for joining us, folks.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to look at another election issue. That was the genetically modified labeling bill initiative, the ballot initiative that failed in California. I got a few other things to talk about later in the program, but that's the next segment. I want to thank all of our sponsors. We'll be back in a few minutes.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey folks, it's Ed Fallon. I want to tell you about saving energy and saving money. Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions will give you a comprehensive energy audit that will cost you nothing. And Tim will identify the many ways in which you can reduce energy use while saving money. Now, I had Tim over for an audit last month, and I was amazed, I tell you, at how much energy was going through the roof, out the windows, the back door. You get it. So before the cold winds of winter really blow hard, give Tim a call at 802-2801. That's 802-2801.
Host is a locally owned restaurant in downtown Des Moines that focuses its food and philosophy on embracing simplicity. The majority of Host's food is from local farmers who practice sustainable and health-conscious agriculture. Much of what you'll find on your plate is a familiar comfort food, presented with a modern and tasty interpretation. Host is open for lunch Monday through Friday from 11 to 2, and also available for private dinner events and special themed dinners throughout the month. So, check out Host at 13th and Locust in Des Moines.
With warm weather finally here, it's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Welcome back to the Fallon Forum. Later in the program, there's a lot in the news today. I'm going to review some of the stories and issues that have popped up in today's news. But first, I want to talk about the GMO labeling initiative in California. I think a lot of us had hope that that might pass because it seemed so logical and because the initiative was prevailing not too long before the election. I believe it had about 62% at one point, and it lost in the end. It lost, largely it lost, I think, because of the vast amounts of money and disingenuous advertising pumped into the campaign by Monsanto and other corporate entities that don't want GMO labeling. Reviewing an article here in the Huffington Post, which is published out of Los Angeles. California voters rejected Prop 37. Again, that would have required retailers and food companies, that's probably where a lot of the opposition came from, to label products made with genetically modified ingredients. So incredible millions of dollars, actually tens of millions of dollars, mostly from outside of California, poured into campaigns both for and against Prop 37. But, and this is what I was saying earlier, the donations, they weighed heavily in favor of the folks who were opposing Prop 37. Companies like Monsanto and the Hershey Corporation contributed to what was eventually a $44 million windfall for vote no on Prop 37. Proponents were only, I love this, only able to raise $7.3 million. Only $7.3 million. Isn't it troubling to the core when you can raise $7.3 million for any election, whether it's for a candidate or an issue in any state, whether it's Rhode Island or California, and say only in the same sentence, and then still be outspent by, what is that, 7 to 1, almost 6.5 to 1. That's tough odds. And again, I don't know what other companies besides Monsanto and Hershey contributed, but I'm guessing I'm guessing similarly other ag corporations, food corporations were uninterested in seeing this law passed. The article goes on to say, despite the lopsided campaign funding power, voting on Prop 37 was relatively close. Let's see, it looks about 47% voted in favor of Prop 37. So, you know what, a 6% difference, 5 or 6% difference. Opponents of Prop 37 blitzed California with campaign ads on a variety of different reasons. One of them was GMO labeling would be costly for consumers and punitive to businesses like small farms and mom and pop stores. I love it when the enemies of small farms and mom and pop stores, or the enemies of the middle class or the poor, somehow find a way to make us the poster child for their disingenuous advertising campaign. Again, no surprise, and yes, of course, that's what happened. Gosh, we see that in so many ways. I mean, we saw it on the healthcare reform initiative a couple years ago. Okay, the anti-Prop 37 movement also gained endorsements from the Los Angeles Times and the San Francisco Chronicle. Again, call me cynical, but I'm going to believe that a big part of why that happens is because those papers depend on advertising revenue from those corporations, and it colors the way they look. Just like it's the same as a political campaign. If you're a candidate and you are getting tons of money from a particular interest group, if a lobbyist gives you a big check, you're going to like that lobbyist. You're going to want to listen to, when that lobbyist calls you, the guy who gave you $1,000 for your campaign, when he calls you and says, hey, I need to talk with you about this bill, and you come back to your desk and you got a note saying this guy called, and you got a note next to that, Joe Blow constituent who you've never heard of but who lives in your district called, which one are you going to take? Which call are you going to call? Which person are you going to call back? You know, it's human nature. It's hard not to call back the dude that gave you $1,000 over the constituent that you don't even know. And so same thing for a newspaper, okay? I'm sorry. We're all human beings, and we all are subject to this kind of pressure. Somebody buys you a nice lunch. You're inclined to like that person more than if you sat down on a park bench and had peanut butter sandwiches. And sir, you're a newspaper. You're a big newspaper. You're the Los Angeles Times. Again, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I would not be surprised if this was a possibility. You look at your advertising revenue. You know how dependent you are on that. You look at your clients. Oh, they happen to be some of the same groups that are organizing and funding the opposition to the GMO labeling bill. It makes it easier to understand why the endorsements sometimes go the direction they do. Again, not saying that was necessarily the case. I haven't researched it enough. It may be hard to even know the truth, but I'm saying definitely a possibility. Okay, so again, the anti-Prop 37 movement gained endorsements from prominent publications like the LA Times and the San Francisco Chronicle, not necessarily because the newspapers were against GMO labeling, but because the way the ballot initiative was written. Okay, so again, if that is the case, and I have not read the editorials, but if that is the case, then that may be a hook to hang one's hat on coming back to try this initiative again. So we will see. But I hope Californians who want to see their food identified, who want to see this continue to move forward, will push again and maybe address the way the language was phrased in the ballot initiative. Again, that's never going to be an issue here in Iowa because we don't do policy that way. We trust a lot more to the Iowa legislature. Sorry, I thought that was funny, but it's true. No, and I have mixed feelings about ballot and initiative. Any crazy or any deep-pocketed corporate interest can get on the ballot. I mean, in California, the casino industry has done this. Walmart has done this. When Walmart was frozen out of a town, I can't remember the name of the town, Inglewood perhaps. The city council said, we don't want the Walmart here. It's not going to fit in with our business district, our development plans, our community design. Walmart decided to take the initiative to the people, hired people to go out and collect signatures, got the issue on the ballot, and I think they lost. I believe they lost, but they basically forced themselves, to go beyond the standard process using the ballot initiative. So we can't do that in Iowa. There are times when I wish we could, but there are a lot of times when I look to California when I think, oh, good thing we can't. Anyway, Prop 37 had plenty of supporters among celebrities, the restaurant world, Michael Pollan, and there was a piece in the New York Times in which Pollan hailed the potential for igniting a national debate about the industrial food complex. So, and maybe that's happened. Maybe Prop 37, even in defeat, has helped fuel that conversation. And again, it'll be interesting to see what happens at the session this coming year, because there are already people talking about doing something on this issue, and we will see if what happened on Prop 37 provides any fuel for that fire. Folks, you are welcome to join the conversation at 244-0077, 244-0077, or toll free, it's 855-244-0077. You can also tell me how much you like my hat or my headphones at Fallon Forum at gmail.com. Let's go to Buzz from Sheridan. I only know one Buzz from Sheridan. Is this Buzz Malone?
It is.
Well, how wonderful is that? What's up with you, Buzz?
Well, I was just calling to complain about your hat, Ed.
Well, I took it off, so shut up.
Okay. Well, no, actually, you were talking about the Prop 37.
Yes.
And the opponents against it.
Right.
And I have a more complete list I happen to be looking at.
Please, feel free to share that with us.
Monsanto Company gave $7 million. DuPont gave $4.9 million. PepsiCo, $2 million. BASF, $4 million.
Who was that one?
BASF, Plant Science.
Sure.
Bayer Crop Science, $2 million. Dow, $2 million. Syngenta, $2 million. Kraft Foods, $1.6 million. Coca-Cola, $1.4 million. Nestle, $1.3 million. Conagra Foods, $1.2 million. General Mills, $1.1 million. And the Kellogg Company ringed in at $790,000. So a lot of familiar names. Yeah.
Well, again, I'm glad you were able to find and present that list because it's good to know who the culprits are. And they've got huge capacity to craft a message and present images on a TV screen, in a radio ad, in a newspaper ad that compel people to believe something that is actually against their best interest. I mean, when you ask people, would you like to know what's in your food? I mean, what percentage say yes? 80?
Yeah, I think all of them.
Yeah. So this is basically people agreeing not to know what's in their food. You still with me, Buzz?
Well, at $7 million, I would probably agree with you too.
Yeah. So, I don't have a good feeling for where this goes next. Any thoughts on that?
The Prop 37?
Well, the issue, I mean, there was talk about if this passed in California, it would present a prototype, even though it wouldn't be a ballot initiative, it would be a legislative prototype that we would then build on to try to accomplish some movement toward labeling here in Iowa. Yeah.
Well, I think there's going to be continued initiatives out there for food labeling or improving the labeling standards. There's been, I guess, increased pressure at several of the state legislatures, and particularly with folks like Ed Fallon out there leading the charge about it. It's an issue that's just sort of refusing to die, even though it's facing such astronomical odds of
Well, I'm glad you read. I mean,
donors.
That list is so instructive. It just tells you. I mean, obviously, those corporations don't want people to know what they're putting in their food. I mean, it's clear as day. They don't want people to know, and they're willing to spend incredible amounts of money to fight to prevent people from knowing, because it's profitable for them. For the
if you look at the donors list, it's pretty much covers probably 90% of everything you can buy in the common grocery store these days.
Buzz, let me, if you have a few minutes, Buzz, I wouldn't mind switching subjects. You are a writer, a blogger, an activist.
I am.
Yeah. What's new with you? And you have I love your blog. I think it's called suddenly blanking.
It's buzzmalone.blogspot.com.
But you have a clever name for the site itself, with a baby with its fist in the air.
Oh no! The new one's buzzmalone.blogspot.
Oh, you don't have the one anymore.
No, I discontinued the other one. This is all focused on my writing, and I write fictions, Iowa-based fictions.
Right, and you've got 3 books out.
Yep.
And they're all about. They're all
independent author. I actually discontinued the political blog. That way, I couldn't be linked in the future to folks like Ed Fallon.
Well, you're doing a lousy job at avoiding that today, Buzz. So what are you working on next?
I'm working on trying to get a free lunch out of Ed Fallon.
Oh, good luck with that. All right, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on a park bench in Des Moines next time you're in town. So no, I've read your books. I've read 2 of them actually. I haven't read the 3rd one yet, but no, actually, I have read all 3. Yes, and they're really they're very riveting. They're all fiction, but based on historical circumstances in southern Iowa. Yeah,
and I'm working on a 4th. That's another fiction, but I like to have a little dramatic flair in all of them. A little something for everybody.
And what's the new book about?
The new book is actually about some older gentlemen in a retirement home.
That sounds riveting, Buzz.
Well, it's more of a dramatic fiction and a little bit of comedy in there too.
All right. Well, good luck with that. And again, thanks for calling in. Thanks for sharing that list. I had not seen that list. I am not at all surprised by it, but I am disturbed, as others should be as well.
I will email you the link.
Thank you, Buzz, and I'll share it with people.
Great. Thanks for having me, Ed. Thanks.
Folks, thanks for sticking around. We're going to be back with some more conversation about some of the breaking stories in today's news. And I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring these segments of this program. Gateway is at Woodland and 20th, ML King and 20th. Call it ML King and Woodland, rather, in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. You've got breakfast, lunch, and supper available there. A beautiful dining area. And this time of the year, I like to sit by that fireplace because that's a really nice, warm feeling when you're coming in out of the cold. But of course, also a fantastic grocery store with plenty of local products, products you won't find in a lot of other stores, but products that also help support our local farmers. So check them out, folks, at 20th and Woodland. That's Gateway Market and Cafe. I'll be back in a few minutes on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait, howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
Hi folks, it's Ed Fallon here. Proof Restaurant at 13th and Locust. You've probably been there for their award-winning, nationally recognized lunch specials. Well, now Proof is open Thursdays and Fridays for supper. And here's where the chefs really get creative. Let me tell you, they're like artists, okay? I've been there and it is one of the best meals I have had in Des Moines. I've heard that from other people. You got to check it out. Proof for supper, Thursdays and Fridays, and also the second Saturday of the month. Do not assume you can get in. Make reservations. Contact Proof Restaurant online at proofrestaurant.com or 244-0655. That's 244-0655. Hi folks, Ed Fallon here. When it is time to entertain, think of Gateway Market. Let them handle the details. Gateway offers a wide variety of stress-free options like cut-to-order cheese and charcuterie. There's a delicious olive bar and a wide variety of chef-prepared dips and spreads. Or let the catering team take care of the entire event, right down to the wine and beer pairings. The expert floral designers can even customize the perfect centerpieces. So stop by or visit Gateway Market for more information. Gateway is at Woodland and ML King in downtown Des Moines. Good food, great entertaining.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hi folks, welcome back. Final segment of our show today. Hey, looking ahead, Andrew Rasmussen with the Des Moines Education Association is my guest tomorrow for the first segment of the show. We're going to be talking about Governor Branstad's education reform proposal. And, boy, a lot of other things in the news on that subject, including a new method to identify struggling students. Jason Glass, the director of the Iowa Department of Education, yesterday instructed officials at Iowa's public schools, all of them, I guess, to adopt an instruction and assessment method called response to intervention. This is a system that will, in which all kids in all the schools will undergo screenings at least 3 times a year. I'm scratching my head about this one and not quite sure what to make of it, so hopefully Andrew can help us sort that out. Also tomorrow, Greene County farmer George Naylor will be joining me to talk about, talk about local foods issues, but also about the GMO issue. And on Friday, Ron Yarnell is back in the studio with me, this time with a very personal angle. His hometown of Lindenhurst, New York, major damage from Hurricane Sandy. We're going to talk about that both from a human interest point of view, but also from a political point of view. And also tomorrow, Stephen Toothman, who is with Stand for Iowa. He's going to join us to talk about the effort to undo the damage done by Citizens United and to begin to hold some accountability on the issue of money in politics. Okay, so again, if I'd love to get back to the point where Des Moines actually had multiple daily newspapers instead of a monopoly by one national corporation. But we've got to work with what we've got, and I'm a meticulous, religious reader of the newspaper every morning. And I'm enjoying a lot of stories here today, including the one, and I'd heard about this, but now it's actually happening, and there's a photograph of the woman who drove on the sidewalk in Cleveland to avoid a school bus. I understand avoiding a school bus is probably, but the best way to avoid one is just to wait a little bit. But she avoided the school bus that was unloading kids by driving on a sidewalk. And, oftentimes that would land you a prison sentence. I like her. I don't know how she feels about it, but personally, I like the sentence. It's to stand, and I can't remember how many days she's supposed to do this, but she stands there in that area, in a very public, busy location, with a sign saying, "Only an idiot would drive on the sidewalk to avoid a school bus." So, I don't know how she feels about that. My feeling is that the equivalent, the modern equivalent of being put in the stocks, is maybe not a bad idea. It brings the community into the problem, and maybe it's a better deterrent than being locked up in prison. It's certainly got to be a lot less costly. So, I commend the court system for coming up with some creative, innovative ways to address offenders. Hopefully, we'll continue to do that. I know there are other countries and even other states in this country. I know in certain counties in upper state New York, where they've done a lot with alternative types of sentencing. Anyway, that's an interesting story. Okay, yesterday, big meeting between Labor and Obama. The heads of several labor unions and some other Democratic groups that are labor-friendly and work with labor met with the president for a one-hour meeting, and they came out saying that they were united with President Obama on how to avert the so-called fiscal cliff, or some prefer to call it a fiscal slope, and how to prevent more financial hardships next year. Basically, the labor leaders said that they're planning to mobilize their members in the coming weeks to press Republicans in the House, in particular, probably, to support extending the tax cuts for middle-income families. Now, that is going to be that initiative will happen in conjunction with the president, sticking by his campaign commitment to not extend the tax cuts, the Bush year tax cuts for people earning more than $250,000. He feels, and I feel he's right, that the election, in part, was a validation of his stand against continuing tax breaks for millionaires. Of course, just what we would expect from Republican Speaker of the House John Boehner, he wants to close tax loopholes. And when you hear close tax loopholes, if I say that means I want to crack down on corporations who take advantage of offshoring businesses to avoid paying taxes, or hog confinements for getting a property tax exemption for their manure storage. Those are the kind of loopholes I want to shut. When John Boehner says it, I think you should really hold on to your pocketbooks and probably lock your doors. He also wants to, quote, fix entitlement programs. That's even scarier. When John Boehner wants to fix entitlement programs, you should probably keep a close eye on your Medicare and your Social Security. Okay, so what is Obama doing today? Well, today he's meeting with about a dozen CEOs from companies like GE, Walmart, Ford, Chevron. This is a cluster of corporate heads who are involved with something called the Campaign to Fix the Debt. And again, yes, the debt and deficit problem have to be fixed. You cannot continue in this direction. This is the fifth year in a row where we're going to have a federal deficit of over $1 trillion. It needs to be fixed. And I commend Obama for putting together the Bowles-Simpson Commission last year, which came up with a plan that nobody liked, but probably was the most fair and manageable compromise we could expect to achieve. Again, plenty of things I didn't like about it, but it was better than anything the House Republicans have even considered offering, better than anything that has been done since or before, and something does have to be done. Don't balance the budget on the backs of, this is a cliche, of course, on the backs of the poor, the middle class, the working people of this country, who are struggling as it is. But that doesn't mean we all don't have to do something to help us get to some type of compromise. Okay, another fascinating story. I had forgotten about Bob Inglis. Bob Inglis was a U.S. representative from South Carolina, a Republican, who was one of the few Republicans, brave enough maybe, smart enough, whatever, to say, climate change is happening and human beings are a big part of it. So the speculation is that's one reason he lost a primary bid earlier this year. But now he is speaking out. He's with an organization whose name escapes me, but he is he's speaking out about this issue, and quoted in today's paper saying, "I think the impossible may be moving to the inevitable without ever passing through the probable." What he's referring to is the impact that Hurricane Sandy has had on the climate change debate. And again, my fear is that the American political memory is so short. I mean, Katrina was worse than Sandy. Well, depending on who you ask, I suppose. But if you ask New Yorkers, Sandy was worse. But we kind of forgot the lessons of Katrina. Heck, we've even forgot the lessons of Cedar Rapids, one of the worst disasters this country has ever seen as well. So my concern is that, we will move beyond being, fired up to do something about climate change. But what's happening because of this this current concern about Sandy is a renewed discussion about a carbon tax. A carbon tax is a really, really good idea because it works by causing people to pay more for fossil fuel consumption, fossil fuels that produce, greenhouse gases. That makes sense. I mean, the tax code, it should be based on a number of principles: ability to pay, fairness, a diverse set of revenue streams. But why not also target the tax code for good behavior, incenting good behavior? We do that all the time, and disincent bad behavior by taxing something we don't want people to do. That's just logical. It's very effective. It's a great way to collect the revenue you need to run government while getting good behaviors to happen. So the current debate about the carbon tax, the Brookings Institute is also weighing in on this with a quote modest carbon tax proposal, which would raise $150 billion a year, and $30 billion of that each year would be earmarked for clean energy investments. Okay, so that's all good stuff. Al Gore has come out of retirement thanks to Sandy and is now launching a 24-hour online talk fest about global warming and disasters today as well. So again, lots of things happening in the news. I do want to make one comment about the story that broke on Monday regarding the EPA threatening to take over the management of Iowa's water and runoff issues because of the DNR's inability to appropriately do so. My friends at the Iowa Policy Project, a think tank in eastern Iowa, Mike Owen writes, "How ironic that we have reason to ask the question, does Iowa have the will to govern itself?" A week after a presidential election that capped 3+ years of courting of Iowa voters, and a few days before a potential 2016 candidate visits to start all of it brewing again. Yet the question is unavoidable. The Des Moines Register reported that the U.S. EPA, this is what I just said, may take over water quality enforcement in Iowa because of weak efforts by the Iowa DNR. So David Osterbrook had this to say: EPA should help the agency, the DNR that is, in bargaining with a legislature that has shown itself to be less concerned with water quality protection than tax cuts. There is no question that if EPA simply accepts the agency's agreement to try to do better, water quality will not improve in the state. And that's the problem. The DNR wants people to just voluntarily comply with doing a better job. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Voluntary compliance is a joke. Let's just call it what it is. When your motivation as a business is often based on profit, you're not going to be as concerned about the impact on public health, public water, public air, as you would if there was somebody saying you've got to do it this way. So, and I was part of debates on voluntary compliance, 15, 20 years ago. It doesn't work. Never has, and I doubt it ever will. And I think the policy project is right on saying that the EPA should demand that the legislature get serious about this, or it needs to come in and take it over. Personally, I don't like having Washington tell us to do any more than we have to hear from them. But if it means clean water, and if it means helping our neighbors downstream in Louisiana, then I think, yeah, that should happen. Hey, folks, thanks for sticking around. Stay tuned for Bradshaw at 1:30. I want to thank Reynolds Energy Solutions for sponsoring the show as well. If you have not had an energy audit done, check with Tim Reynolds at reynoldsenergysolutions.com. It's free, and it will help you identify plenty of ways to save money. I also want to thank Proof Restaurant. I'll be going to Proof tonight. I love that place, and a great place to warm up, I think. Have dinner before you go to the Sweet Equality event. Sweet Equality is One Iowa's annual event to celebrate efforts toward marriage equality, toward full equality for the gay, lesbian, transgender community. That's at Americana Restaurant, and that's from 5 to 9. It's a fundraiser for One Iowa, but also a great way to sample desserts prepared by some of Iowa's finest chefs. So check out, again, both Proof Restaurant tonight, folks, and Sweet Equality, One Iowa's event. Also, my next stop, Fighting Burrito for lunch. New to Des Moines, but not new to Central Iowa. Matthew Goodman is the owner, a city councilman in Ames, an entrepreneur, and a fantastic burrito selection at very affordable prices right on 13th Street between Locust and Walnut in downtown Des Moines. Thanks, folks. Stick around for Bradshaw. I'll talk with you tomorrow.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I am administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.